Season 2. We're here and it's 4 it's about to be 4:50. It's full moon today. Full moon. It being 52 degrees, drizzling outside. How's the sound? Can you guys hear me all right? You guys can hear me all right. Speak like this. Should be good. Perfect. After 7 years sobriety. So this is the second month. 14 days. 74 days. How amazing is that? Now let's just go over the financials of this. If not being sober is essentially $20 a day, maybe $10 a day. Seems a little bit more fitting. It's about $200 a month. It's $2,400 a year. Think about how much gas you could get with that money, with that amount, that value. Think about how many grocery runs you could have. How many trips you could take. That's like a night that's a night at a really good hotel. So just put it in perspective. It's a huge psychological thing. At least for me, it's always been. Of course, the benefits have always been there, but when I really got to terms with, you know what, is it better for me to choose to be happy, or is it better for me to find happiness by escaping? Because then I also then fully understand the whole concept of like not being sober, being inebriated because you like being inebriated. But at the same time, having had realized this and year after year have been testing it and progressing through it, I'm now able to go to a concert and not worry that I stink. I'm able to have a body that has proper management of its endocrine system and its liver and its gallbladder and all these things. My blood is clean. I could think clearly. I could think straight. I'm motivated. Oh, and my dreams. Oh, my dreams have been through the sky recently. And I remember my dreams. I can tell my testosterone is definitely coming back. And it takes time. What I will say, though, is that the whole cold turkey method is certainly plausible for a lot of people. What I do have to note, though, is that it's a giant psychological game in the sense that you have to buy in to what you're researching so that you can just imagine the fact that you're holding on to a door, except you're not holding on to like a door handle. It's literally your vice, and then the second that you let go of your vice, your hand is open. And knowing that you've done research and you've essentially persuaded yourself to be open to new information, you can then grasp that new information and hold on to it for a little bit and realize, like, oh yeah, if I go cold turkey, I can not only save money, but then I can also use that money in a more efficient, responsible way where when you make a purchase or you make an exchange, you're sitting there going, you know what, I'm glad I made this money. Because one thing I heard the other day was rich people aren't wealthy because of how much money they make, it's because of where they don't spend money. And it was fascinating to me because that is somewhat in the Taoist way of mind, where learning is just as much as letting go of things that you once knew as it is incorporating things you haven't known before or heard before or learned about. And it's a great conversation to have, especially when it comes to, at least in my eyes, it was like, you know what, and this isn't to disrespect anybody, this is just what I saw for what I saw it for. And I'm not going to use this against anyone. And it's not me saying that I'm better than other people. But when it comes to sports, for example, it's so fascinating to me that, like baseball, going to a baseball game, it's not that it's not civil or it's not to my standard. It's like the place where you use like the bathroom is literally a trough for animals to eat food from. And then the food that they serve you isn't actually food. I mean, it was for me at some point in my life. Like, I really did enjoy it, going to get a hot dog and nachos and all this stuff. And it got to a point where I realized, like, man, that's something I did when I was in the fifth grade. And I'm 24 right now. Would I want my children to do all these things? And so it then multiplied to a magnification that made me realize, like, you know what, if I go cold turkey, it's really more about me going back to normal. Because when I really discovered this whole thing about cold turkey was on the same day I saw Tame Impala, which was about almost 5 years ago to the day. And I went completely sober, realizing, like, you know what, this avenue of happiness, I like me showing up because I'm happy is the exact reason why I cried during the concert. Was the exact reason why after the concert I sat there going, it's not that the concert made me happy, it's that I was happy, and that's why I enjoyed the concert. Sitting there and having goosebumps, realizing, man, I'm onto something here. And then the second year I developed into the mindset of, like, yeah, you know what? I can be as happy as I can ever imagine myself being simply by showing up sober. It's anything. So then the third year it being, oh wow. If I think back at the times where I was the happiest, the most in the moment, the most memorable times of my life, it's when I was a child. And children are completely sober. They're they're sober happy. And then that's when in the fourth year, that's when I realized, like, that I go to three. I'm on four probably. Yeah. When I realized, like, okay, there's a there's a person that exists who is sober, who's looking at the medicated person, and they're realizing, like, yeah, I'm so happy that I realized that the will for me to be the person that can function sober finally outweighed the will for me to medicate myself. To then the fifth year essentially being, okay, I've spent X amount of time medicating myself. If at some point I feel a kind of choice coming along where it's like, you know what, what's it like being sober? I'm not saying that I have to go 7 years into sobriety to be quote unquote back to normal. I'd say that the day that I became sober and I made that choice from day one, it automatically was like, yeah, back to normal. Then I get to go to bed and wake up and trust myself to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where I've done it 74 days in a row. And I thought to myself the other day, I said, I know I've 100% learned from any time I've been inebriated. It's not that I went to go get inebriated for the escapism that was like my life, but it was the escapism that was my goals, that was my ambitions, that was my dreams. And that's the part where it's like, you know what, hypothetically, say by the end of this year, I move out, get a car, have everything paid off, right? Would that be an implication for me to celebrate? Or would that be me being able to be like, you know what, I saved 2 grand. I can afford to go camping and I can drive myself there, go hang out in nature, chill at the beach, maybe probably have a couple $100 left, go get some groceries, and then come back home and be like, all right, regardless of however long that just took, I know that I could go achieve my next desire, go get my next goal. And this mindset's always been there. This thought process has always been there. It's just like with Wi-Fi. Like, did people ever discover Wi-Fi? Or how do you invent the Wi-Fi waves? Tell me. No, no, no. They were always there. It just so happened to be that we found the technology to interpret those waves, like with cell phones, uh, just like with magnets. Like all this stuff's always been there. It's just that at some point we decided to be like, you know what, we're gonna invent technology so we can tap into a radio, all these things and more, right? So that ability for you to be like, you know what, I'm gonna hone back into that happy person that was 13 years old, and I'm gonna renegotiate why I did those certain things, or why I decided to look at the world like that, or what happens when I let go of what's holding me back. And then you sit there and you're like truly, truly accepting that, yes, there are certain things you learned, like how to have a good meal, or what tastes good, or how to make love, even. And it's like, you don't need any of that stuff to do any of those things. Like, now that you know those things, you could remember how it is you got there. Whether it's talking to a person at a bar, or learning how to, I don't know, maybe you thought of a fun business idea or something. I'm thinking of all the things that are legal and sane for people to say, so that obviously if you had your own country, you'd have your own rules and you could say whatever you want, your channel, your choice. But like, maybe I should pull up some of the examples of, let's see, personal review. Let's see. I wrote here at some point, it said, too long didn't read. Sobriety means loving everything I do, doing it the best way I can, and loving the person that looks me back in the mirror when I brush my teeth, do my hair, clothe myself. So, what's it like? For starters, I have been more aware of my words, thoughts, actions, considerations, my intentions in life, my purpose for life. Ultimately, my quality of life is fulfilling and fruitful. My gratitude for the gift that is the present moment is full of love and life. I am outside of the thoughts and inside my ideas. No longer am I feeling weak and dazed by the weeks and days of the year. No longer am I blessing anyone with blessings, but I am praising them with praise. Is it a form of poetry that no one told me to try, because if all you do is try, then when will you have life inside? Trying to have life without the war within, so that I can live without working. I will stop here because the control. They have places within the language of English based in the spelling. Who are we, witches? Anyway, sobriety has driven my brain derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, up, and so is my self appreciation. I can dream vivid dreams and remember them. I can make them lucid on demand. Lucid is the word. I have the terpene smell when I sweat removed. My ability to sweat is only when I work out and it's healthy, and I no longer do I experience hot flashes. Critical thinking skills are up, reading level and comprehension is up. I get nice deep sleep every night because the blood in my brain is clean. So is my diet, my skin, my eyes, my spending habits. To save money and have to spend on gas, food, and clothes, still have savings left over is awesome. My free time is spent reading, writing, creating, and loving every moment I get. I still watch YouTube, cook, cleans, and clean the same, and if anything, I do it knowing that my energy is placed in the most reciprocative currents possible. I don't even know when I wrote that, but I wrote that. It's fascinating how I paused right there because I was like, first off, when did I write that? But then second off, there's like a whole list I have somewhere that was like right here I was gonna review D9, the mycotoxins, the mold, and the citric acid. But maybe that would be for another Sonic. My body, soul. Asking to learn something. Self help. Wow. Cannabis taught me. Recipes. No? Full foods not to eat book club. Wow. Ideas. Where would it be? You guys deserve to hear this now that I'm searching for it this much. Better. Where would this be? This is fascinating. Graphic design researcher, content creation, relationship. So I use Notion. That's what I'm going through right now is my Notion page because at some point I realized, whoa. So I wrote this. I should probably favorite this page so I can come back to it really quickly. And for those that had the patience to be patient, thank you. Add favorites because I'm gonna have to. Okay, so on August the 11th, 2024, I used the emoji. There were three houses. So I'll just read the whole thing because I'm already here. The wealthy feeling of having an abundance of options and yet being disciplined to know exactly what is worth my time, energy, and attention is luxury. That is wealth. That is my quality lifestyle. My intangibles, the choices based in my systems is how I have redefined my life experience. I can do all things I choose today, as opposed to being told what to do by people outside myself. Home is where I am, not where I want to be. Love is where my feet are, not where my heart wants to be. Freedom is being able to do anything and only deciding for myself. Truth is in the eyes, my story. It cannot be found in their or his story. That feeling of knowing how to put yourself in any mood at any time. That feeling of knowing that specific song for that specific moment. That feeling, that experience of being the director of your own movie, where others are actively finding themselves as their own main character while being my own main character myself. I am aware of the benefits of Tree. It has helped me become a better clothing designer, jewelry designer, chef, nutritionist, dietitian, driver, friend, son, father, brother, neighbor, consultant, advisor, entrepreneur, fitness instructor, systems analyst, products analyst, systems developer, products developer, research developer, learner, actualizer, product sourcer, music producer, chemist, biologist, genealogist, physiologist, therapist, philosopher, architect, manager, owner, founder, historian, agriculturalist, economist, banker, loan officer, botanist, director, photographer, graphic designer, collector. And in turn, X has improved my physical health, my mental health, my interpersonal relationship, my extra personal relationships, my taste in coffee, my taste in bread, my taste in clothing, my taste in music, my approach to life, my skin, my mood, my internal dialogue, ability to source, ability to pick, ability to predict, ability to create, ability to feel. So just understand that you too, you listening to this, 100%, you're capable of all these things that I described and even much more. And there's more that from this point that I realized, like, wow, that space and that gap has taught me so much. And really, I share this because on one end, I'm happy, so that's why I'm sharing it with you. And then on the other end, I look at the person who wrote that and then the person that existed before any of those experiences were possible. And I think, like, do I regret any of it? And the answer is no. But then I also think back and I say, is there a possible chance that I could teach that to a child and they don't have to go through what I went through, but can have the same skill set, the same abilities, the same reason to say no that I now have? The answer is yes. And earlier I was talking about sports. And just real quickly, in the same way that I wouldn't put my child into sports is the same reason why I know why I wouldn't put my child into sports. The reason I wouldn't put my child into sports is because I would rather teach my child my version of leadership, my version of being a teammate, a team leader. I would rather teach my child, my family, how to be disciplined, but my version of discipline. And so when I recognize this, it's also the same way that us as people, we can also discipline ourselves with the food we eat. We can discipline ourselves with where we get the food we eat. We can also discipline ourselves with the people that we communicate with. And so it has to happen now. And the reason why we can be taught these things and the reason why we should learn about these things is because in another video I said this, and I'm going to say it again because it's that important. Everything that's popular is not important. And the things that are important, that are very important actually, are not popular. It is true. So I'll leave you guys to it. It's been a good 24 minutes and it's about to be 25 minutes. And so the intention of this video is for you to hear what I have to say while being happy, while being content with my life. Because I was just doom scrolling. And just in the same way that maybe like an unwanted thought or like a bad habit might be something you're doing, you can always snap yourself out of it and say, what can I be doing? Okay. I know I can be doing that. I know that I could be doing that. I'm going to stop what I'm doing. And it's not that I'm happy that I stopped what I'm doing. It's that I stopped what I'm doing. Now I'm happy. Chose to be happy. And then from the literal place of happiness, I decided to make this video with the purpose that for me to stay on the bicycle, I have to be redundant with things and I have to be consistent with things. So this is honoring the system. This isn't a means to an end, but this is literally the end itself. Because this is one take. This is me doing it the first time, every time, no edits, no cuts, no filters. Because that's where when I work from a place of joy, that's the result I get. But I'm not working for this result. I'm working because the literal ability for me to make this and ultimately the quality of life that I have and the quality that this is is why I make it. And that's the journey. That's when people say to fall in love with the journey because the results are going to change. And when you're on that path, all those desires are flooding your way at speeds and at magnitudes that are undescribable. But the detachment is somewhat necessary to the extent that you do it because you're choosing to be on that path, not because the path is going to offer you X, Y, and Z thing. Of course, there are plenty of people who use life or certain things in life as a means to their end. And of course, they might have a version of happiness that could be relevant to yours or mine. That's totally acceptable. But at least in my experience, speaking from my own experiences, I'd rather choose to be on my happiness, to be in my happiness, and then spread it and shine like a disco ball from there. So take care. All the best.